Joining us now, California Congressman Khanna. He's a member of the Biden campaign's National Advisory Board. Let's talk about the record for a moment, because we're all talking about President Biden, his ability to do this, and all the concerns. But let's get to President Biden's record. What is he running on, and what is his plan for the next 4 years?
Let me say the most important thing he's done. There were all these deindustrialized towns in America. Donald Trump said they were the forgotten Americans. In the last 3 years, those towns have had more job growth, more manufacturing return than since the 1990s. Joe Biden is running to finish this manufacturing revolution, to reindustrialize America, to have universal child care for everyone, to help make community college free, to tax wealth so that we can invest in the working class. He wants to continue that agenda, things he didn't get in Build Back Better.
He has accomplished so much during his time in office. Objectively speaking, he's gotten big bipartisan legislation passed. He's gotten bills that will create jobs, like the CHIPS and Science Act. You're talking about the job creation in the industrialized West. Because of all that, and because the economy is getting better, inflation's coming down. I mean, we saw a report just the other day that showed that prices came down for the first time in 3 years, first time since the pandemic. Why are the polls so close?
Well, the polls are close, one, because we're a polarized country. Two, because you can't underestimate Donald Trump. He's unfit as a leader, but he's a very talented candidate. He has a huge base. I mean, remember, he destroyed people in the Republican primary in 2016. He beat Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden's the only person to beat him. And he spoke to the anxieties people had in a deindustrialized America with jobs going to China. So he was always going to be a formidable opponent.
You think Joe Biden's the only person that can beat him?
No, I don't. But I think that if there was going to be someone else, they would have needed to start about a year and a half ago.
Why do you ascribe to that? Other countries do elections in 6 weeks. We're always told that no one pays attention to the last 3-4 weeks of a campaign. Why do we need to subject the American public to 2 years of torture, making these campaigns even longer and longer? Why does it have to be that way?
Well, look, you were running against someone who has universal brand idea. I mean, I knew who Donald Trump was when I was in 7th grade and visited the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. I used to play the Trump board game. I mean, so you can't run someone new against a person who's been on TV for 14 years.
But he's a person that has a really high disapproval. There are people that don't like him at all. I mean, he's got high name recognition. He's also got a high level of antipathy.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's beatable, and I think Michelle Obama could beat him. Maybe George Clooney, if he got in, I don't know, maybe George Clooney could beat him. But to say that you're going to have someone who's an untested governor who hasn't earned that trust, or even the vice president, who I think, had she started a year ago, would clearly have been able to beat him. But it's a risk. I'm not saying they couldn't, but it's a risk.
Why do you think 70% of voters don't want either candidate?
Because they were on the debate stage debating their golf handicap.
This was before that. This was a year ago they said this.
Well, it was symbolic of a sense that this country wants the next generation of leaders. This country wants to move on.
Why were they not given that choice with the Democrats?
Because no one ran. I mean, there's not some DNC committee that came to the governors or ambitious congresspeople or senators saying, don't run against Joe Biden. Dean Phillips tried. Others could have tried. The reality is no one could have beaten Joe Biden
this
morning, a year ago.
You told a very handsome morning show host, who I happen to know well, that if you did have a magic ball, that you would go back 2 years and you would have not run Joe Biden. You would have had a different candidate. He did say he was going to be a bridge. Why was that not pushed more forcefully? Why is he remaining on? Why not do one great term and then pass it off to the next generation?
Two reasons I think he decided to change his mind. One, the midterms went much better than expected, and I think that gave him this boost of confidence. If you looked at the poll numbers back then, Biden's numbers were at 80-90% with Democratic primary voters. No one would have been able to beat him. I think people would have beaten him today. I mean, if the election were today. And the reason he ran is I think he looked at the legislative achievements he had. He looked at the threat of Putin, and he concluded that he was the best person to lead. That's the only reason to run for president. Now, do I think in retrospect we should have had an open primary where more people came in? Yes, I do. But we're not at that point. We're 4 months away. I don't believe that Barack Obama, who I think is the most talented politician of the last 50 years, if he was thrust in 4 months against John McCain, would necessarily win.
Really?
I mean, look at all the things that happened. Reverend Wright, he had to give a speech on race. He had to show people that he had the patriotism. It takes a lot to earn people's trust.
But that was running against McCain. This is running against Donald Trump.
Look, I don't underestimate Donald Trump. And I don't have a view that Joe Biden is the only person that can defeat Donald Trump. But I think it's not obvious, absent someone like Michelle Obama or someone with name ID. And ultimately, it's Biden's decision. And when I was just on the phone on KPAC with him, and he said he's running. And he said he's conveyed that clearly to folks. So I didn't see anything of his introspection of him reconsidering.
All right. Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for being here in person. Good to see you.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.